This week in PlayStation, we're talking about our review of the PlayStation Pulse Elite headset, SnowBikeMike interviewing the MLB The Show 24 developer, and if we were wrong about PlayStation live service games after the insane success of Helldivers 2. We'll have all this and more because this is PS I Love You XOXO. Welcome to PS I Love You XOXO, your weekly PlayStation conversation. That's blessing. I'm Greg, and if you love what we do, please get that Kind of Funny membership on YouTube or Patreon. Of course, you get each and every episode of PS I Love You XOXO ad-free, just like all of our other podcasts. You get the ability to watch us record it live, just like all our other podcasts. Just like my dog Nick96, Casper J87, and Anthony Corbett are all watching live right now through Patreon and, of course, YouTube. And, of course, you get my daily Greg Way vlog each and every day. Isn't that great? That's what members get. I love it.
Yeah, cool. I got to do it a couple of times.
Yeah, you've done well.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Have you listened to them?
Yes, of course.
Okay. I felt like
I can't leave you guys unguarded.
It's tough because like I don't know how you do it. Well, I guess I do know how you do it because you're Greg Miller and you talk all the time.
Yeah.
But like being, I guess, out of practice for doing that kind of vlog where I'm talking to a camera for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know what to talk about.
You talked about that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, how do I talk for 10 minutes?
I've been using them as journals, like diaries, you know what I mean? Like, I wish I had the time to journal, but I feel like I don't with, life in terms of going to work, life in terms of Ben and Jen, and then just wanting to be gaming all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like those three things eat up the entire day, so I don't want to then go home and make the time, but I kind of do, but I don't.
Yeah.
I'm getting closer. Huh?
You gotta pick and choose.
Yeah.
Like the things that you're like, okay, these are the things I want to do versus things that I should
Something
do.
I've been noodling is getting that. I took my iPad only to DICE. So I use that as my computer again, and then also my reading tablet and everything else. I was noodling with maybe getting the Apple Pencil and then doing every day one page. It's either doodles or a thought or whatever. Like, because I feel like I could commit to that better than buying a physical journal. Like that for some reason doesn't speak to me.
Yeah.
But the idea of just like every day I do something on a page.
Like a doodle.
Yeah.
Is that, what value does that bring to you? Is that just
nothing?
A thing of,
I don't know. I don't know what it would bring to me or whatever. But the Greg Way vlogs actually, I feel like they get serious a lot. Like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes there's bullshit, but like lots of time, like, yesterday was a whole conversation about Ben's childhood, but through the eyes of my childhood, and it's crazy to, and all these different things. I don't know. Like, I'm having those conversations. Like, Greg Way is therapy for the most part.
Yeah. So it would almost be like if I put pen to a page every single day, it could be like a form of therapy.
Yeah.
I feel that. Yeah, like there's I've seen like recommendations of coloring helps with the mental health. Especially if you're like going through a depressive episode, or like if you just need something to do, right? I think like they say that buying a coloring book, or I know plenty of people that do coloring as like a therapeutic thing.
But then I sit there and I think about like, okay, cool, Jen's gonna go to bed, I'm gonna sit there and write a page when I could be out saving Super Earth. Not a fucking chance.
Exactly. That's my thing. That's where I come into pick and choosing, where I'm like, there's certainly many things where I'm like, if I could do this every day, then that would be great. But also for a lot of those things, it's like, well, I need a 30-hour day, right? Like I'm like, I can't. There's some day or some weeks where I'm not gonna get to go grocery shopping, or sometimes where I'm not gonna get.
Something's got to give.
Like something's got to give.
When you're playing this much Tekken,
exactly,
something's got to give.
When you're playing this much Tekken, this much Final Fantasy VII,
you can finally talk about that,
and this much Balatro. Yeah. Which I got an update on Balatro right before this episode. I won my first run.
Go!
I did it. I was at my desk locked in while you're streaming Helldivers 2. I was cooking.
Yeah.
I was playing some poker.
Was it the same setup you showed me, Bless?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was the thing where Balatro is an incredible video game. Like, absolutely incredible video game that, like, I think is going to be a slow burn whenever people get to it and, like, have that thing of, oh, this is awesome, right? Because, I'm playing it. When I first booted up, I was like...
For those who don't know, what is Balatro?
It's a poker roguelite, to put it simply, right? But it's a game that kind of came out of nowhere a little bit. Like, it had a Steam Next Fest demo that sort of got people's attention. But now that it's out this week, I've seen more and more people on my timeline talk about it. And the thing that's brought me into it is the fact that I'm not a poker person, but I do like card games and I do like roguelites. And so Inscription, one of my favorite games ever. Yeah. And playing Balatro, right? Like looking at the setup of you're using a 52 deck of cards, right? Like the standard deck with the face cards, the king, jack, queen, all that stuff. you're using that kind of deck, and basically every round you are playing a hand, or you're playing hands to then try to get a certain amount of chips, which are essentially just points, right? You're trying to get a certain amount of points. And so it starts off as the first round, get 300 points with the hands that you have. And so it is you playing these different types of hands that are poker hands. So you might get a flush, which are all cards that have the same suit. You might play a straight, which are the cards in like exceeding order, right? Like there's two pairs, there's pairs, right? Whereas like you have two of the same number, or two pairs of two different same numbers, right? You have all these different hands that you can play, and all of them add up to certain values. And so a two pair might be worth, let's say, 2 times 10 points. But there are so many other things that then add up to it, right? Where if I play a 2 pair that has 2 5s and 2 6s, each of those numbers are then added up into like the amount of chips that you're getting into that. On top of that, you have these modifiers that are jokers, where as you're going, and this is like where the roguelite really comes in. The jokers that you are buying at the store between every round then have these effects of, for every diamond you play, it's now times 2 multiplier, right? Or every 8 you play, or like every specific kind of, every face card you play might have a multiplier, or like you might get you an amount of money and cash to spend at the store, like all these different multipliers that work to then really switch up how you play. And the thing that's impressed me the most with this game is that so far, all of like the big successful runs that I've had, and when I say successful, I mean like runs where I've gotten far, not necessarily that I've won, but all the
you just won your first one, so yeah,
all the big successful runs that I've had wildly different strategies. Where the one I just won just now, I went all in on these joker cards that allowed me to, or that had benefits that went against like discarding cards. And so like you have a certain amount of discards that you can do, where you can choose up to 5 cards in the hand, drop them to then draw more cards, right? One of the ones I had was like, for every round that I don't discard is now times 0.2 multiplier. And then I had another one that was like, if you discard, you then bring down this multiplier. So I'm like, okay, this whole run, no discards. We're going in on just playing hands. And discarding is like a big part of it. And so I'm going all in, and like absolutely different way of thinking during this last run than last night, where I was playing and like my whole run depended on like diamonds. And so I'm going for like trying to get flushes with all diamonds.
Well, that's what really keeps that's what keeps a roguelike fresh, right? Where it is like, okay, cool, this run is going to be based around this. This is what I'm trying to accomplish here. And I think that's why you have games like this that are so successful, that are, you can beat it, you can finish a run, but like you're not done with the game, right? You're gonna go back, you're gonna play again, and you're gonna try different strategies, try to do it faster, try to do it better.
And the thing that I like currently, now that I've beaten this this first run that I've won, there's an option to like, all right, do you want to do a new run, or do you want to switch to endless mode? And immediately I switched to endless mode, because I'm like, I want to see how far I can take this hand. And so when I get home, I'm going to boot up the game's on PlayStation, obviously, but also it's on Steam, and I've been playing it on Steam with the Steam Deck and stuff.
Fair enough.
But I'm going to
Have you heard about PlayStation Portal, though? Because you could be playing your PlayStation.
Yeah, but my Wi-Fi's not that great at home, and so like, now it's the whole thing.
Have you heard about
but yeah, I'm gonna keep going with that run to see how far I can get, just for fun. Like I don't know if I'm gonna earn anything off of it, but like I'm really enjoying this this run, so I'm having a good time.
23 points there for CEO Juniors in the Kind of Funny Fantasy Critic. What's Final Fantasy got me right now?
I think, let's see, 26.
26. You love to see it. Let's see if that hangs in there. You know what I mean? It's a hotly contested Fantasy Critic.
Yeah, it's very competitive.
Who knew Janet was the one holding us back from having everybody care?
Honestly, before this, Barrett was like very like, oh man, I'm coming after you, Greg and Roger.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, leave out my name. Now that we're a month and a half in, I'm like, I get it. I'm not performing the best so far. Like the only game I have on my list that scored points is Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, which is a good game.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's only gotten me 11 points.
11 points ain't gonna get it done.
And I'm trying to bank on Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 to like really bring it in. But I wasn't expecting for those other games to come through and like, put it down the way they are. And so
I appreciate I'm sorry, real quick, Barrett. I appreciate how you've left so many spots open. Lots of time left in this year. A lot of us are starting to get down to having like only one or two.
Is that by the time we get around to E3 or not E3 season, like
SGF season?
SGF season, more games are going to be announced, and hopefully you guys don't have as many slots to use.
Exactly. Barrett, what was that?
I was just wondering if anybody else made a bid for Balatro.
No, I had never heard of it until you did your tweet about it, and then I saw the review scores.
Same.
Yeah, damn. I put $8 on it because I was really worried.
Gotta be careful.
I know, because I was like, I've been hearing about this game like a lot for the last couple weeks. I don't know like how like tuned in Mike is on like updating his draft and all that stuff. So yeah, but I feel like it was an $8 spent well.
Yeah. It's
I'm
an
also gonna have to drop Mario Kart, I think. So I'll have 3 spots open.
You're definitely gonna have to drop Mario Kart. we're very early into the year. We're a month and a half into the year, or in a few days, or in a week, I guess. And I don't know how other games are gonna infiltrate my top 3, because right now it's Tekken 8, it's Final Fantasy, and it's Balatro. And I legitimately, these 3 games, I love them so much that like. I think Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree is probably gonna break in there, but like, who knows what's the rest of the year is gonna look like in terms of like Metaphor,
Fantasia.
Fantasia.
Finish Persona 3 slowly over the year.
That's true, but even Persona 3, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess Persona 3 could overtake Final Fantasy maybe.
Let me tell you, man. Last half of Persona 3, like the stuff that you have not touched yet.
Dude, this year's starting off strong.
Of course, our Final Fantasy VII Rebirth review is live as a Kind of Funny Games cast right now. You can go check it out. Of course, remember that you can get PS I Love You XOXO for free with ads without the exclusive content on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames and podcast services around the globe. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Carl Jacobs, Streakin' Ain't Easy, and Delaney Twining. Today we're brought to you by Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but let's start with a PSN message from you. I appreciate it on the Gamescast talking about Final Fantasy sponsoring Kind of Funny content, not sponsoring the review. That we wouldn't be doing that kind of thing. And then of course that like since Tim, blah blah, you reviewed it. Yeah, it was well done. I wasn't on it obviously, so it was. I haven't had a chance to tell you. You guys did a good job.
Well, this episode is brought to you by Balatro.
The PSN message comes from Sergio, who says, "Hey Greg, you got any update on the new PlayStation headset? Highly considering buying it, but I was wondering if you're thinking it's worth the $150 price." Of course, Sergio is talking about that Pulse Elite wireless headset that is here on the table. Because yes, I have been using it.
Shout out PlayStation for sending us one.
FTC, don't come at us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We know.
Be cool.
It was sent for review. I don't know why, influencers or whatever. I've actually never seen myself in it. So this is trippy. Yeah, because I've used it a lot, but I can't see myself when I do it. You know what I mean?
I think that's the one thing that like might be my one like ding. Yeah, is like I don't love how I look.
Your head very weirdly.
Yeah, like I don't like how it looks when you have it on. Like it looks when you have it off and it's just on the table. I think it looks excellent. But when you have it on, it's like, you look like a dork. Look at this guy.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone in a gaming headset and been like, they look cool.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and also, like, how often are you in front of people
par for the course for us, whatever. But here's what I would say is, like, I have no idea how I looked in the original Pulse headset. I guess we could go get that off my desk if you want and have a face-off or whatever. But what's interesting about it is, like, first off, if you're new around here and you don't know, I'm not some audiophile. Tim is. Tim gave his, like, detailed talking about 3D surround sound bullshit impressions on Kind of Funny Games Daily Monday if you want, because this question actually comes from there, but I saved it to have a conversation with you. I want to say was playing Helldivers, but that actually might not be correct. I think it might have been playing Banishers for review, and I use in the office, I use my PlayStation Pulse headset, the original one, before this one got here. So hold on, that's how it looked in that one. Let me see if this one.
I think this looks less.
This looks more like earmuffs.
Yeah.
So I think when you get that shot, it still looks dorky. Well, that looks normal.
It's less pinheady. Like the other one, like shapes at the very top in a weird way. This seems more.
So option.
Like
this is the original Pulse headset. Yeah.
Taking it off.
Yeah.
Now he's putting on the Elites.
And these are the Pulse Elites.
Yeah, there's something.
Yeah, they got a thing going on. Yeah. But anyway,
is that the shape of your head? Let me put it on.
No, it is not the shape of my head. Don't be insulting to my pinhead. I was playing Banishers, I think, here in the office for review. Had been using the regular Pulse headset as I always do at my desk and at the TV. And these came in that day, and I immediately switched over to them. And not being the audio guy, they can go through and talk about the planar technology and all this other shit that's in them and whatever, blah, 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 blah. Going from the regular Pulse to the Pulse Elite, sound-wise, was like, oh, holy shit. Where it was that I'm not the sound guy, so the Elites have always been fine sound-wise or whatever. Putting those on, it was immediately different. That was immediately, I thought, more HD or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That was great. And then same thing I said from my preview of the Pulse Elite headset last year, right, is that, oh man, the ear cups are bigger around my ear. They feel more comfortable. The band is supposed to redistribute weight. It feels more comfortable. Having used these now for Banishers all the way through on review, and then for, I think at last count, something like 36 hours of Helldivers over the past week and a half or whatever it's been, like, no problems. Like, Pulse Elite the OG ones would eventually hurt my ear. The cartilage of my ear would eventually, I would feel the weight of them on here. Not like, like, but I would know it's on my head. Whereas these, I think, are so nice form factor wise, so nice in terms of the quality, in terms of the weight, in terms of long gaming sessions. A big one for me too is that it's very weird how, time works or whatever. But when I got the Pulse Elite originally, when I got the original Pulse headset back in the day, and was using that, I was playing a lot of Avengers. And I remember when I first started using them, somebody was like, what the hell are you wearing? And I was like, why? Like, it doesn't sound good. I was like, oh, damn, it's the new fucking Pulse headset, yada, yada, yada. This one, I'm playing a lot of Helldivers. And so it has been, the retractable mic and all that jazz. I have asked people, like, how do I sound? They're like, you sound great, fine. No, it's gaming, whatever. I don't know if it's as crystal clear as a cell phone call, but I'm very happy with the Pulse Elite headset. I do need to buy a pair for home because I want to just be able to leave one in both places, one at the office, one at home. And I will happily spend money on them because I'm that happy with them. Yeah. And again, I am not the audiophile. I am not the checking all the things. I want it to plug and play, and it plugs and plays with the PlayStation. I think it's super impressive still. The ability to, especially for Helldivers, where I'm waiting in a login queue, or I'm waiting for a mission to load, or I'm waiting for somebody to go through the stratagems to pop into Twitter, pop into TikTok, and have the audio, the video I'm watching come through the headset while I'm still talking and while I'm still interacting, right? Because you can link it to your phone and your PlayStation and have it go at the same time. The one criticism I would have, and this could easily be user error because I am a moron, I cannot for the life of me get it connected to my Portal, which is one of its big thing with the play link button. But and I've only tried the one night when I first came home and was doing some stuff with it where I was trying to play Helldivers and do it. And I was holding the button, tapping the thing, doing the 8 seconds. For 1 second, it flashed that it was connected. And then I just couldn't do it again. I troubleshot for probably 8 minutes before I was like, fuck this, I gotta go. And I just put on the earbuds.
I've had connectivity issues with like both the Pulse Explorers and also the Pulse Elite. Not trying to connect it to the Portal, but connected to my PS5. Like there'll be random times where I'll turn my PS5 to rest mode and then turn it back on, and like the Portal or the headset will already be on, and like I'm clicking the thing to try and connect it to the PS5 and it won't go. But then I'll put both on rest mode and then put them back on, and then it'll happen. Weird things like that, and then also just periodic, like even in the middle of playing or in the middle of listening to my music on my phone or whatever, because like the Pulse Explorers, the Pulse Elite has Bluetooth connectivity as well as the PlayStation Link stuff, so you can listen to your phone while also playing games. And just random times it'll drop, then come back in. Like it'll drop for like half a second and then come back in. And I don't know why that happens between both the Pulse Explorer and the Pulse Elite. I don't think that happened much with my original Pulse. So yeah, I think that might be a link thing.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't had the drop on it, but Tim has. Tim was talking about that where he had to get. He's using the new PlayStation 5 Slim, so he's just got USB-C on the front. Yeah. So when he had it plugged in the back, he was having connectivity issues, so he moved the dongle to the front with a connector.
I've been wondering that with my own setup, because the way I have it, I have the dongle in the back, but then I also have a PC like in between me and my console, and I've had it with I feel like I've been like in conspiracy theory territory where I'm like, when I have my Explorers, sometimes my right Explorer will drop, but then my left Explorer is fine. But so I'm like, is my head, is my skull blocking the connection of my right Explorer? And then I turn my head and then it reconnects, and I'm like, okay, is it because I turned my head, or is it just happening to reconnect this way? I don't know. But either way, I think those two things aside, like those are kind of smaller criticisms of it. Overall, I really, really, really dig my Pulse Explorer. I think on the sound level, I think the sound quality is better than the regular Pulse. And then on top of that, like the sound balance between my Bluetooth stuff and then playing on the Link, when I playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, for example, when I'm doing just random open world stuff, like my checklist box stuff, I am playing podcasts, I'm playing music, and it is leveled like the exact way that I like it, where I can hear the game clearly, but then I also have like music and where I can hear the music clearly. Like this, the quality of it, I can tell is way better.
Talk to me about that, because I haven't had the issue, but I also haven't looked into it, right? Because for me, it's a TikTok, it's a whatever. The sound balancing you're doing, right, would be you're turning your phone up more on your phone itself.
Basically, I'm not going in and like, I know there's ways to where you can actually get in the nitty gritty of like EQing things. I'm not EQing. Okay. Like, I am just turning my phone up higher and like turning the game down low. And like, I think because of the quality of the audio within the Pulse Elites, it just sounds way better than even the Explorers when I'm doing both at the same time. So I like that. I think I really, really, really need to commend is the battery life. I've not had it die on me.
They advertised 30 hours, and I have not run it to death. I've just done the thing where I put it down, pick it up, don't think about it, and I've pop it on the charger, I think, the other day, but it wasn't because it was dying. I was just like, oh, I need to do it.
Yeah, and
I like that they come with the little dongle thing to, if you want to mount it somewhere.
I'm usually like pretty critical when it comes to like battery life stuff for PlayStation in general, because I feel like it's just since PS3 the controllers just die like crazy, and I've had it with the Pulse where I'm like, oh yeah, my Pulse is dying, I need to plug it in. Yeah, Elites. I am going a while without even thinking about plugging it in. And then like you, I'm like, oh, I guess I should plug this in because I'm sure it's going to die at some point.
I don't want some inopportune time to do. But yeah. I haven't had the thing pop up and tell me low or anything like that, so that's been nice.
And so I like it a lot. I do, I think the aesthetic design of it, like it's designed, I like the design more than most gaming headsets because usually gaming headsets look like gaming headsets. But the fact that it's a Bluetooth thing that can connect my phone, I almost wish that it was designed in a way where I felt good about being out and about with it. Like I wish I could use it like the same way that I use my Beats headphones, where I'm just like, going to the grocery store or doing whatever, and I have my headphones on. I would never wear this to the grocery store, but also like you're not.
I never wear most of my gaming headsets. Yeah, any gaming headset. I guess,
but like most of the gaming headsets,
I guess I travel with my Astros quite a bit.
I might be wrong about this, but I feel like most gaming headsets aren't. I guess they probably are. I was gonna say they're not Bluetooth compatible. Well, I guess they have to be, right, to be like connected. But the way that this is Bluetooth compatible, I'm using it with my phone in a way where I'm like, man, I just wish I looked normal in the store wearing one of these. But obviously, if you're using it as a gaming headset at home, you don't have that issue, right? It's great.
My dog Nick96 says, does the Pulse Elite not have the aux cord? That's what I liked about the original. I don't think it came with an aux cord if I remember correctly, but it's still got the jack. It's still there, so if you have your aux cord, you can still plug it into a regular headphone jack, no problem.
Yeah, but overall, I like it. I think it's a good upgrade. I think obviously money is to each their own in terms of how they want to use it. But if for everything we're saying, $150 sounds like something that you're willing to put down for this, I would say it's worth it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, and I'm sure again, I'll tell you all about why whatever Superman game's good or why whatever Ghostbuster game's bad. I'm not the audio guy, so I'm sure there are a million other headsets that are doing a million other things cooler or whatever. But for me, the guy who plays consoles because he just wants it to be easy, this is easy and I like it.
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you though, this has nothing to do with these headsets. It does tangentially. The other day I picked up the Portal to go play, and I literally chuckled to myself. I'm like, how fucking stupid is it that this thing doesn't have Bluetooth? Because I always have my have my AirPods in my little pocket for my phone or for whatever I need. And I'm like, why the fuck?
Yeah.
My Switch even. Why the fuck can I not just connect these things there in a
Power
pinch?
the PlayLink.
Yeah, it is Power PlayLink.
Pulse Explorers.
You gotta have that planar headset, whatever the hell. Sounds great. I don't understand it, but it sounds great. It's time for topic of the show. Blessing.
Greg.
There's a little game called Helldivers 2 that has taken over my life, and that's not news to anybody. Everybody knows how much I loved Helldivers 1 and how I was super excited for this one and ready to go. The news that it has taken over the world, though, is kind of shocking. The news that there was 400,000 plus concurrence on Steam, kind of surprising.
Yeah.
That they had to cap the servers at the weekend at 450,000 people, just shy of 500,000 people. They had to say it's not working. The TikToks I'm being served of, sure, the gameplay, but then the ones that are from the people's partners are the ones that kill me. Where they're making, there was one where the girl was filming just the screen, and she was like acted like it turned on, so the guy ran in and it was still like on the whole screen. He's all pissed off at her or whatever, and then topics to bring up if your partner is obsessed with Helldivers and all stuff. A lot of I think you were the one a long time ago who said about some game we were all talking about of it's mainstream. It's something different when it's broken through the algorithm to find it outside of our normal gaming friends channels, right?
Yeah.
This then led to an interesting question you presented. What was it?
Were we wrong about PlayStation's live service plan? Do you want me to elaborate on that? Or
I've never been wrong about anything PlayStation related. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I think this comes off of the conversations that we've had in the last, I guess it's been quite a few years as we've been getting news about the PlayStation 10 games and then 12 games being live service.
Jim Ryan's doing this, and now we got Fair Games, and now we're
partnering with Haven Studios and Jade Raymond and doing all this stuff, right? And then I think it all came to a head last year during the summer PlayStation showcase where we got multiple games that were announced that were part of this live service plan, right?
Yeah.
It was Helldivers 2, it was Concord, it was Fair Games, and it was another one, I think.
Was it? I thought that was it. I thought those were the ones.
Did I say Marathon?
No, you didn't say Marathon. You did not. You said Concord.
Yeah, so Helldivers 2, Concord, Fair Games, Marathon. Yeah, those are the four that were announced on top of Last of Us Online, which we knew existed, but then we had reports shortly after that PlayStation showcase where I think it was Jason Schreier talking about how Bungie did the evaluation and they're having problems with what the content, post-launch content was going to be, and so we knew that was having issues. that was met with a response where everybody was like these games don't
Universally,
look interesting, like universally, like these trailers aren't selling these things to me. And then also we like PlayStation for single player narrative action stuff, right?
Sure.
Like we want the PlayStation games that we love. I think that was kind of the universal response to it. Now that we're in the following year, right? We've gotten, I don't know if this is technically the first of them, but like I guess one of the first major ones, if you want to count it. I know it's third party, but published first party, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the PlayStation Studios logo goes before. Remember, everybody's second party is dead. Even if you're a third party independent studio and you make a PlayStation game exclusively, they're going to put that logo on and say you're PlayStation Studios.
But Helldivers 2 being, I think, objectively, there's like in every single like unit of measurement you want to look at, successful.
Yeah.
Were we wrong?
I, of course, don't think so.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much to it, but it's because people keep extrapolating in interesting ways. I hate starting internet drama.
You do?
I hate it. There's nothing like that. And I hate, especially when one of our friends of the show wants to open their fat mouth and get smacked down, all right? But Sancho West, a young boy out of Texas who's on WrestleMania in review next week, of course, watch it on your Screencast podcast feed, put up a tweet. Barrett, I put a link to it in the document if you have the document in front of you. I don't know if I told you to put the document in front of you, but it doesn't matter even. I'm going to read it to you, right? Basically, on February 17th, Sancho quote tweeted Wario64, where Wario was saying, Helldivers 2 has hit over 300,000 concurrent players on Steam. Sancho quoted it and said, I'm extremely confident The Last of Us Online would have put up these numbers too. Easily. Hopefully, the success of Helldivers 2 convinces Naughty Dog and PlayStation to at least try The Last of Us Online. I feel this is, and I love Sancho, of course, friend of the show, friend, just a friend. Makes fun of me because I took him to this bar one time where there was no menu, and you had to tell them what you kind of like, and then they would make something for you.
Wait,
It was a cocktail bar Eric Castro recommended, so you know it's crazy.
Is this in San Francisco?
No. This was in Nashville.
Hilarious.
Anyways, this is the root of the problem with the argument, is that I feel like, were we wrong? Of course we don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's this idea that, oh, well, look, Helldivers done it. Last of Us would have done it as well, right? Like, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I'm not saying Helldivers 2 is a unicorn, but I'm saying that Helldivers 2 is from Arrowhead. It is a sequel to a game that came out 9 years ago. It is also an unflinching, this is what the game is. Like, I've been so impressed by the CEO and president on Twitter, first off, for being way too outspoken. I'm sure PlayStation PR is mad at him. Oh, yeah. But secondly, being like, at one point somebody was like, well, are you ever going to add PvP? And he was like, absolutely not. Like, that's not what this game is. Like, they have, Arrowhead has a vision for what Helldivers 2 is, and I think that leads to its success, right? Because it is delightfully complicated. Looking at that, for Sancho to look and be like, oh, well, Last of Us would have put up these numbers too. Not a fucking chance, because clearly Last of Us wasn't fun. You know what I mean? Like, this would be akin to being like, oh, well, if the order had been different, oh, well, if Helldivers 2 is going to do this, well, clearly Suicide Squad will have these kind of concurrent numbers as well, right? Like, no, I don't think this is an apples to apples thing. Like, Helldivers is a crafted game that is fun in every moment, right? Maybe not waiting for the servers to work, but fun in every moment of playing it. Whereas Last of Us multiplayer clearly wasn't. Something was wrong and it didn't work. And so then to look ahead and be like, well, then they've proven themselves, PlayStation, with Helldivers, we should not be at all concerned about fair games. It's like, well, no, fair games looks generic as shit. Like, fair games, like, just, and I know we've only seen like the teaser and like read about it, right? But like these things that are like, we joke about the extraction shooter, we joke about PvE, VP, or whatever the fuck. And these, I'm throwing all the games from that showcase together here, right? Where it was like, which extraction shooter was that? Ha ha ha. Like, Helldivers has something going on, I think, even when you just glance at it. We weren't sure if it would pay off, and even after the preview, right, I was like, I don't know if it'll be mainstream enough, it's going to speak to me, but I don't know, kind of thing. Like, I don't think that you can look and be like, oh, well, because one second-party studio here was able to do this, PlayStation's got an eye for it, which means that fair games has to be successful.
I want to play a bit of devil's advocate.
Please.
Because I think, for what you're saying, I do agree with you. But to play devil's advocate a little bit, right? Like, I think there's a argument that could be made about the system in which Helldivers 2... The system that allowed for Helldivers 2 to be a success. Because I think a lot of this and a lot of what we see with live service games and the way that we see games come out and not do well is part of the systems that led to their existence. So Suicide Squad, for example, this, I think if you look at WB Games as a publisher and their attempts at monetization and their attempts at trying to put together something multiplayer that's going to work for people, they've had a lot of missteps that would have allowed anybody to look at Suicide Squad and go, oh, that's not going to work for you, right? Like, I look at things like Gotham Knights. I look at things like the microtransactions that were in Shadow of War. I look at things like Mortal Kombat, which like has issues with monetization as well, where like that fan base isn't always happy about what's going on there. Suicide Squad not only let off on the wrong foot in terms of showing people a game that made them go, but that's not what I want out of that kind of game. And then, like coming out and feeling like something that came from the kernel of the idea of how do we get as much money as possible out of this DC license, as opposed to how do we make the best DC game that we can out of the resources and people and teams that we have. I also look at something like Skull and Bones, right? Where that's another one where it's like, Ubisoft as a whole, right? Like there are so many, I think, wins when it comes to a live service kind of thing when I look at Rainbow Six Siege. But at the same time, like I look at things like Roller Drome, I look at things like Rainbow Six Extraction, I look at things like Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and there are so many things that it feels like they are just trying shit out and don't develop it fully, right?
And this would, if just jumping, because I'm not trying to stop you, I want to help you go with this argument, right?
Mm-hmm.
We look at Helldivers and the success and be like, well, clearly then maybe are we wrong about live service games? Skull and Bones right around it, and so is Foam Stars. And like we did a stream of Foam Stars sponsored, right? And we played at SGF, and my feelings after the stream are the same as after playing it at SGF, right? Which was like, oh, it was fun. Mm-hmm. But like there's no hook, there's nothing in me like Helldivers where I'm like, I gotta play more of this, I gotta keep going, I want to keep doing this.
And I think a lot of the games that we're seeing that have come out in the last however many years that are live service games that come out and like it's a thud, right? Like don't gain any success, don't gain traction, don't gain the hype, feel very, I think, on their surface and like I think very apparently feel like they're being made because these are like the money moves. These are the things that are going to bring an audience so we can monetize it and do all this stuff, right? Whereas, and I think we get those because we are, looking at publishers that are, like not PlayStation or Xbox or Nintendo, right? Like, hey, we need to serve these shareholders. We need to make money. We need to do these things. When you look at, I think, PlayStation, how they've operated so far, right? And like talking about the system of PlayStation and how we know they work, both from like word of mouth reports and all this stuff. Last of Us, that getting the evaluation from Bungie, and let's just say like the PlayStation team, right? I know it's not just Bungie, but like the PlayStation team, and I'm going, hey, this isn't going to work for these reasons, right? Like you need to think about this as a live service. How are you going to keep up with this? How are you going to make content? How are you going to do all this stuff? And Naughty Dog making the decision of, oh yeah, if we do this, then we're going to have to commit to it. And that's going to mean that we're all hands on deck, and that's going to affect our single player experiences that we want to make. Let's not do that. And that leading to the cancellation. That's the system working as it should, right? That's PlayStation putting in these checks that go, hey, we're keeping an eye on you. Hey, just so you know, this is what the status is, and giving Naughty Dog the leeway to go, okay, let's not do that. Whereas you look at Arrowhead, right? And like Helldivers 2, the reason why it's working is for what you're saying. Them coming out and being like, no, we're not going to do PvP. Hey, we're going to make this a co-op third-person shooter that feels like it's doing a lot of things that harken back to our favorite games of the PS3, the Xbox 360 era, right? Like it is a co-op shooter where you're having fun, it's chaotic, it's all these things. How many games do you see nowadays that are like Helldivers 2, just in even genre? Like it feels like it is doing a thing that isn't following like whatever the money moves are saying. It feels like it is hey, this is a game that Arrowhead really wants to make because it's a sequel to a thing that they made 7 years ago or so, and they are given the freedom to go, this is what we want to do with it. Obviously, I can't say if that's how they're going to treat Fair Games and Concord and all this stuff, but if we're looking at a PlayStation that wants to go, how do we foster these games the best way possible so that we're not just going, hey, put out a Suicide Squad that's going to make money and all this stuff, but hey, put out, Haven Studios, we believe in you to make a game like that's multiplayer and do all this stuff. We're going to be hands off with it. We're going to give you the resources. We're going to give you the checks and all that stuff, but just make something. I think that could foster a roster of good live service games. I don't know if they're going to get the moneymaker, like the big Fortnite type thing.
But maybe they don't need it. Like, I mean, a Fortnite thing, obviously everyone in the whole wide world would want and would need. But you know what I mean? In terms of, let's bring this question in. Dcash114 had written in to kindafunny.com/PS I love you, or PSILY, just like you could to be part of the show. Does Sony take the wrong message from Helldivers to success and lean back into live service? I think that's the biggest takeaway. Were we wrong about PlayStation's live service push, right? Well, what did we say? That it seemed like too much too fast? Remember, they already said they're pulling back on it and not doing what... I forget if they said they're only going to do 6 of the 12 or if they put out the long thing and they canceled The Last of Us. So, like, there's like... I worry, yeah, of course, taking the wrong message, Helldivers 2 success, back on everybody on board, let's all make live service games. But I think it's more of not taking the wrong message, but maybe us as in... not industry, but us as fans of video games, giving them a second to let them fuck it up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, again, it was the live service is such a poisoned word, all these different things, battle pass, da-da-da-da. Back to, you know, okay, well, people want to make money off of these things. Like, Helldivers could be making so much more money than it is. Helldivers is incredibly generous, I feel, as somebody who's been playing the game nonstop for a week and a half, right? With its super credits. Like, yeah, I put $10 in, but I bought an outfit and a helmet and whatever, and I still have at this point, I have more than $10 in there now from credits I've found in the world, credits I've gotten off the battle pass, and the store updates it's like every day and a half, every 2 days, and like today's drop has a bunch of stuff on it I've already bought. So it's not like they could expand that shop. They could put a whole bunch of stuff in there. They aren't putting weapons in there in terms of like, oh, this is the great gun, you should buy it kind of thing. Like, there's a way to make it really scummy and shitty, but they're not. So it's almost like, to the point of Last of Us getting canceled and the point I was making, to the fact that Helldivers isn't gouging you for money when it is published by PlayStation, they could say gouge them for money, right? Maybe we have to sit there and be like, give PlayStation the benefit of the doubt that even though I read Fair Games, right? Our first new IP, Fair Games, is a fresh, modern take on the heist genre. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though I read Concord, right? And it's Concord. Announced today as a showcase, Concord is our new PvP multiplayer first-person shooter coming to PlayStation and PC. While I read Bungie and it goes, Marathon is a sci-fi PvP extraction shooter. It will find players in I'm like, all these, it is just, especially all at once in one thing. Ooh. But again, benefit of the doubt, like Jade Raymond's very talented. Obviously, Bungie's very talented. Like, you have to see, maybe it is the thing of like, okay, we've seen other people fuck it up. We've seen WB fuck it up with Rocksteady over here for Suicide Squad. Maybe it is that fact that the checks and balances are working. They're pulling out Last of Us. They're pulling back on some projects, or, you know, they're making the moves that I don't mind a live service game. I actually really fucking like them when they're good. Yeah. I really like Helldivers. And again, like, I will be interested in 2 months what Helldivers looks like. Like, I fully expect 6 months, 9 months, whatever. Oh, we're doing a big expansion. There's a new race of aliens. You're going north or south on the planetary map or in galactic map. Like, that I know is coming. But if it's just like every day is like, okay, cool, they're doing the little, like, you know, get more this and it takes longer with fog because of that, and there's a drop on the store, is that what's making me come back with my friends? I don't know.
Yeah. And like, I think this conversation takes me into multiple different directions.
Sure.
Where I think the conversation in PlayStation should be, in regards to Concord and Fair Games and the other stuff in the works, how do we foster more Helldivers 2? Right? How do we foster more of these kind of launches where it is, hey, let's do everything right, let's not force it, and let's make sure that we are leading off on the best foot possible for these multiplayer live service games. But then also on the flip side, you know, you talk about how Helldivers 2 can make a lot more money, right? The way they're monetizing it is very generous and all this stuff. Helldivers 2, for the way it's performing, exceeding their expectations, doing all this stuff. PlayStation, you go back to last year where we got the slideshow where they talk about putting in, like, shifting their budget to 60% of it going into live service type stuff, right? Which I think they, based on what you're talking about, they might have adjusted, they might have not, I don't know. But let's say Concord, Marathon, and like whatever other live service thing are more Helldivers 2 like things. Is that making them the money that they want off of this live service push? Is that doing what they want?
So if it, like, those 3 games are as good as Helldivers, then yeah, it is, right? Because like, this is the key part of their strategy, right? That they're being very open about, especially in the past week with their financials, right? And talking about fiscal years of like, it's dominating on PC. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like when it's outpacing God of War and Spider-Man, which is to be expected because those weren't day and date. When it's crushing and passing all these different records, like, that is what PlayStation wants to see. And I'm sure that is a monetary gain in a world that it's not hard to believe, and it's not hard to look back over the past, generations, but even the past few years of here is this exclusive timed we're partnering with, or exclusive we're doing that second party that we're just keeping to PlayStation. And so you can only imagine how many selling on PlayStation versus what it's doing right now. And again, when you're breaking those Steam records, what are you doing? You're getting headlines each and every day about this is crazy, this is crazy, and that's only inspiring more people to go buy. That's only inspiring more people to be like, oh shit, I need to pay attention to this game. So if you can have 3 more that are like that, yeah, I mean, obviously they would love for any of these to be the biggest thing like Fortnite.
Next Fortnite,
and suddenly Lady Gaga's dropping in Helldivers 2. They would fucking love that. But I still think just making more money than they would have made on just a PlayStation 5 exclusive is there. And having people engaged to stick around and be positive about it. And again, like, for me who wants to give them more money for more cool shit, like, if it is going to be for Helldivers 2 that they drop an expansion, it's another $40. You know what I mean? Like, we're going big in a year and it's another $40 expansion, but it's a new universe. You're going like, fuck yeah, you've earned it. Take it. Hell yeah.
Yeah. I'm to get back to, like, you know, the worry about Concord and other games, right? Is like, I think even if the goal is for, like, hey, let's foster these games the way that we foster Helldivers 2, right? Like, let's give them the freedom, let's give them the leeway, let's give them the resources, whatever they need to make a game that doesn't feel like it's over monetized or like trying to ride the wave of a certain genre, a certain kind of games as a service type tactic, right? I wonder how I guess I still go back to what the climate is for live service games and for what we're seeing in terms of the ups and downs of it. You know, I still go back to things like Knockout City being one of the best multiplayer games I've ever played. Like, fucking a game that I absolutely adore, right? But them not being able to keep up with it. Not WrestleQuest, the other wrestling game that was like the wrestling battle royale. Rumbleverse, thank you. Like Rumbleverse, you know, coming and going and seeing a lot of that. I think right now we're in an interesting moment because this year started off with the 2 more expensive live service games being Skull and Bones and Suicide Squad, and I guess Foam Stars, you're gonna put that in there, even though like that was on PlayStation Plus. But I digress, right? Those kind of like, you know, coming and feeling like they're already going, but then Power World and Helldivers 2 being the ones that are like blowing up, both for very different reasons, right? Like, you can't really predict what's gonna hit in what way. The Concord Marathon, Fair Games, I forget which are which in terms of like the kind of games, but some of them have PvP. like Fair Games, I believe, is
Marathon PvP.
Yeah, like PvP is such a different beast than PvE in a way that makes me, in the way that has me having my eye on it of, all right, like Helldivers 2 nailing it in terms of what PvE, co-op, horde, chaos can be. When you add in the PvP element, which, you know, takes a bit more maintenance, takes a bit more balancing, takes a bit more listening to the community and the feedback, and like making sure that there aren't elements that are breaking when people are fighting against each other, or there's a gun that's imbalanced. Now the whole game's ruined because people aren't having fun, right? Like, I am so curious to see when we get there and how that's dealt with on the PlayStation side. If this is a thing of we are treating this the way we want to treat Helldivers 2, like I'm hoping for success, but I think there are so many things that are still working against them in the conversation that we're having.
I'm hoping for success too. Obviously, I want all games to be successful, but we'll have to wait and see if we're wrong about live services. I think our concern is still warranted.
Yeah, I think
it's a very hard thing to do. But to your point that you made, and we've all said, I think throughout the shows, of just like, it's so hard to predict. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there was on the same Games Daily where Tim talked about the things and we talked about the headset and we talked about Helldivers. There was a comment from somebody that wasn't as offensive as it might sound as I recount it in short form, but it was like, it's insulting that Helldivers servers don't work in this day and age. Or it's unacceptable that you can't play Helldivers, a game you just paid $40 for. And it's like, yeah, but no. Like, my whole thing was, and I know I'm labeled a developer apologist all the time, but it's that idea of like, they're a small independent studio, and like, servers aren't free. It's not like no one could predict this success. Like, I saw so many people rally from other games as services or games that have been online and tell their horror stories of like, we planned for 250 whatever, I'm making up numbers from these tweets, we planned for this astronomical number, we barely got like a tenth of that, and it still broke the servers because of X, Y. It's like all of this stuff of releasing into a live environment, like there's so many things that can go wrong. But for it to be like, we're so successful, this small game, this $40 game is so successful that like the servers are melting right now, and Arrow has done such a good job of communicating about it and trying to be like, we're on it and this is that, and you can still get in. Like I still haven't had a night where I'm like locked out completely. It's usually 10 minutes. It sucks. And but it's like, I would rather this be the story than it turns out PlayStation forecasted that it was going to be 1 million people and it only got 200,000 and now they're wasting money doing this thing. And you talk about layoffs and you talk about this and budgets and stuff. Like I'd rather see smaller budgets and smaller ideas, but then as you're seeing and hearing from the Helldivers CEO, right? Like based on this success, we've thrown away our roadmap. Like we're hiring up to make this a bigger thing.
Yeah. So based off of the success of Helldivers 2, are you more excited now for the future of these live service games, or are you about where you were before?
I would say I'm where I was before because it's just the next three, and this is what makes it so hard, right? Like this is so weird of like, this is the stupidest thing I guess I could possibly say, but if we were an ice cream podcast and they're like, we're making a sequel to chocolate, and chocolate was one of my favorite flavors. Yeah. I'd be like, fuck yeah. And then there's 3 flavors I just don't care about. You know what I mean? I'm like, I hope they're good, but it seems like a lot to put these 3 flavors out on top of each other and announce them all the same when we are literally like, wait, which one was the one with the thing and da-da-da. Like, I'm still of the mindset that I don't think these will have Helldivers success. The one Concord, I feel is the one we know the least about. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, and it's true, right? Because they've only shown the screen or whatever, or space or whatever.
Like Concord and then there was like
a rumor of it's like Guardians of the Galaxy vibe to it or whatever. That is the one I would say I'm the most excited for. Because I'm like, okay, that all sounds interesting and cool. Whereas the PvP thing, immediately I'm like, no, I'm not going to play that. And then Fair Games, I'm just like, another heist game? Like, I don't know. I haven't played a Payday in so long because I'm just like, I'm good with it. I don't know. So it's like, I'm in the same place where I was never looking at them being like, these are guaranteed failures, fuck live service. It was, I hope for the best, but I still think that they're very similar sounding on top of each other. But
yeah, I mean, I think I'm also in that similar place, but I'm more optimistic that at the very least these games are going to come out good. You know, good and successful are very different things.
Yeah. Again, hopefully that's the thing we're talking about. Where again, PlayStation does have their hands on the wheel here and are helping guide them in, ordering what they want.
Yeah.
We'll wait and see, ladies and gentlemen. But hey, if you want to wait and see what is next for PlayStation and on PS I Love You, XOXO, then you should be a Kind of Funny member. If you're a Kind of Funny member, of course, you get each and every episode of PS I Love You, XO ad-free. XOXO, ad-free. And, of course, you can watch live. And, of course, you could get the Greg Way vlogs each and every day. But since you're not using your membership right now, here's a word from our sponsor.
We are brought to you by Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a standalone game that welcomes fans and newcomers alike. You don't need to have played Final Fantasy VII Remake or any other Final Fantasy titles to play and enjoy Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The combat is not traditional turn-based and has more action-focused gameplay, with even deeper improvements since Remake, with new synergy attacks and team-based combos. And there are large open sections to explore, with Cloud and his comrades venturing across the planet, their fates unwritten, making every step in the expansive world outside Midgard fresh and mysterious. And of course, there are dozens of mini-games. There's a story recap video of Final Fantasy VII Remake for those interested in learning more about the story so far, and those looking to experience Final Fantasy VII Remake fully can pre-order the Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth Twin Pack, which includes the game plus the DLC episode Intermission at no extra cost. You can download and play a demo of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth right now on the PlayStation Store, and you can pre-order the game in the link in the description. The wait is almost over. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is out February 29th. Get hyped.
Blessing?
Greg.
Let's talk about this week in PlayStation. Because what happened this week in PlayStation is that the one and only SnowBikeMike went to PlayStation HQ.
Whoa.
I said, what are you going to...
Messed up. You got our Xbox guy to go to PlayStation?
First off, I don't know if you know this. Xbox basically a third-party publisher now.
I heard about that.
And guess what?
Yeah.
He went to PlayStation HQ to play an Xbox game.
Whoa. That's cruel.
It's also coming to PlayStation. Oh. No, I'm talking, of course, about MLB The Show 24. I said, Mike, write me a little synopsis of what you thought of the game. He gave me an intro, so I'll just read this if you don't mind. Mike went to PlayStation HQ to check out MLB The Show 24 and sit down with Ramon Russell to hear all about Storylines Season 2 and how the team at Sony Santa Monica has continued telling important and impactful stories with the addition of 10 new Negro League players and an all-new Derek Jeter storyline. Ladies and gentlemen, we now go to SnowBikeMike.
What's up, everybody? It's SnowBikeMike taking over your episode of PS I Love You XOXO for a fun little interview to put in the middle of all this. Today, I am joined by Ramon Russell from PlayStation to talk all things MLB The Show 2024 and Storyline Season 2, which I'm pretty excited to talk about with you.
Oh, man, that makes me so excited that you're excited. We're happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you. Congratulations on your recent DICE Awards win. I got to highlight that. I mean, you and the team, MLB The Show, Best Sports Game of the Year from the DICE Awards. Got to be special right there.
Yeah, that was a very surreal moment, and it happened so fast. It's not extra, but it's like that extra little icing on the cake. It's like, oh, we made a pretty good game last year.
You did. You've made an incredible game, even last year and beyond, and you've done an incredible job with a brand new game mode, which is Storylines. You know, last year I got to preview it. We gave you the big preview here, kind of funny, on the XCast with me and Paris Lilly, my gaming dad, and now I get to come back for Season 2 and talk directly with you, which I think is really, really special because it is something I wanted to highlight, I wanted to share with our audience, and I hoped that the wider masses would see and love. And that's the question. Did they attach to Storyline Season 1?
They did. We had a lot of reactions, which were the same reactions that you had. And that's what we were looking to do. You know, baseball has such a rich history that we don't really talk about a whole lot. And so we really took the task, hey, maybe it's okay if we dig a little bit deeper and tell more impactful stories. And if we are, you know, there's this saying, you can't tell the story of baseball without telling the story of the Negro Leagues. And that was really the genesis of the feature. And that came about because we knew that if we just threw a Josh Gibson or a Satchel Paige into the game, 95% of our audience aren't going to know who the heck they are unless you're a hardcore baseball fan. And that felt a little disrespectful. So how do we give our end user a little bit of information about who they were as a person, as a player, and what they mean in the pantheon of baseball history for an interactive video game? And that's how Storylines was born.
And you guys absolutely nailed that in Season 1. So kudos to you and the team. The presentation, the gameplay was all fun. But of course, I want to start really quick. If somebody is just tuning in and they're going, man, they're talking about storylines, they're talking about historical players, what the heck is Storylines? Maybe they didn't see it last year. What is Storylines itself?
Right. So we make a baseball video game every year called MLB The Show. And last year, we took a real deep dive and introduced this new game mode called Storylines. And that's exactly what it is. It's a storyline revolving around baseball. And so Storylines is a vehicle that allows us to tell deep, impactful, true stories in the baseball sphere.
And you did that. And now let's get into Season 2. Because Season 1, you highlighted 8 players.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about the Negro League. We teamed up with, of course, someone who now I know forever and will always love, which is Bob Kendrick, the president of the Negro League Museum. I thought that was special. Now I know these players. I know the people involved. I'm into Season 2. What does Season 2 look like building off of what you did?
Well, we wanted to give everybody that same reaction that you had the first time you saw Satchel Paige's Storylines. But so we have 10 players this time. Last year was 8. This year is 10. It's a staggered release. So at launch, it'll be Josh Gibson, his Hall of Fame teammate Buck Leonard, Henry Aaron, and people are like, Henry Aaron? Wait, we know Henry Aaron's story. Well, you probably do, but do you know that his story started in the Negro Leagues? So you're going to get that part of his story. And the legendary Toni Stone, who was the first female baseball player to play in a professional men's baseball league regularly.
And I think that one's pretty rad right there. We know some of the names, but we don't know all the names. I think as a baseball fan, I talk to my dad about this. I immediately get in the car and I go, oh my God, like, what about these players? And he tells me stories all the time. And it's cool to see it brought to life and then learn new ones, right? I don't know about Tony. I never knew about this story. And it is cool to see brought to life in your video game as well.
And that's what we're trying to do. Bob Kendrick likes to call it edutainment. And it's something that he harkens back to because the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, it's a real museum. And museums have to remain relevant. And so his eyes lit up when we first talked to him because he saw the light at the end of the tunnel. And he has this quote where he says, I can't wait for kids to come to the museum because they may never come. I have to go to them. Where are kids at? They play video games. A lot of them do. The vast majority of kids play video games. So he immediately saw the opportunity to be able to take what's in that museum and bring it to a much larger, much younger audience.
Yeah, and I think that's the cool one. I highlighted that when we had our talk was the edutainment of it all. And I think it's so cool. Last year when I got to sit down with you about Season 1, I brought up hands-on history with Age of Empires and the idea of like mixing gameplay plus history and how do you teach and educate at the same time. And I thought they did a really fun job. And then seeing what you all did here at Sony and MLB, I thought, man, they knocked it out of the park. And it's this really interesting thing where you see something special and you just know it's special. It grabs me right away. I have a smile instantly on my face. The stories are so powerful and so real, and it's something where, man, you just never think about what it was back then. And my eyes start to tear up, and I go, they nailed it. They did it again, and it's always exciting. And that's the big one, is the presentation of it all, I think, is something special for someone to see.
And we knew it had to be special because video games are a participatory medium. You have a controller in your hand, you have agency, you want to be doing something. And so when people say, wait a minute, there are videos that you're going to watch, but I have a controller in my hand. Well, they're short. Okay, what else? Well, they're not only short, they're very informational. Okay, they're informational, yes, but they're also very entertaining. You have Getty imagery, you have historical footage, you have one of the best storytellers ever telling you these stories, and I would listen to Bob Kendrick narrate a boot getting deep fried. like everything that man says is so entertaining. We have motion graphics. The music was a really big part of storylines because it had to resonate with a much younger, a more hip, a more cool audience. So the music in storylines, which has always been a big deal, but it's even a bigger deal in season 2, had to feel right to put you in the right mindset to get you to really engage with it. Because we've been playing video games since we were knee-high to a grasshopper, right? And over the last 10 or 15 years, no one questions anymore if video games are a good storytelling medium. Whether it's The Last of Us, whether it's a God of War or an Alan Wake or any other mini games who do this amazing job at telling stories, we knew that was true, but I think what we learned last year was it can also be an edutainment. You can also educate in video games as well, but it's not about the education per se, it's how you educate them. How do we make this fun and engaging so that you don't even know that you're getting a history lesson, but you're getting it in a fun and engaging way?
Of course, and talking about engagement is the gameplay itself. There is challenges to this. That's what guides you through this story. What kind of challenges will we see? What's new and fresh for season 2?
Yeah, so new and fresh for season 2 is the moments are easier. We thought we were making them easy last year. We were wrong. we were wrong. Like there's a few moments where you had to hit a home run, and we probably didn't give the player enough power. It's like, maybe that wasn't our best idea. Defensive moments you'll see for the first time. And if you get stuck at a moment, you can skip. Because what a few kids told us was, hey, I got stuck at a moment, but I'm so engaged with this story and I want to finish it, but I literally have a barrier to where I can't finish it. So now you can skip the moment if you can't beat it to continue to finish out the storyline.
I really love that. I don't want people to skip all of the moments. I want them to play, but I do love that. As someone that doesn't have the best game in MLB The Show, I appreciate the thought of like, hey, if I hit a roadblock, what am I going to do? I don't want to miss out on the story. So kudos to you and the team for thinking about that. Defensive moments. We always think about offense in baseball. We think about hitting the home run. We think about driving in that run. What does defense look like to you and the team?
Well, so defense came about because of a few reasons. One, we're expanding storylines. Derek Jeter has his own storyline in MLB The Show 24, and he's known for some of his amazing defensive plays. So we knew we needed to really stretch things out and add some new functionality. So you'll have these really fun quick time events in some of Derek Jeter's defensive moments, and you'll see them in storylines, the Negro Leagues too, where you're actually playing defense in a fun and engaging way. And that helps out every player lock game mode. That helps out storylines, and that helps out our Road to the Show game mode.
I'm excited to see the defensive moments. That to me, robbing a home run over the fence, pulling in that double play at shortstop, I think is going to be really cool to see and participate in. You brought up the captain, Derek Jeter. That's a big deal. In storylines now too? What's up with that?
Yeah, so like I said, storylines is a vehicle for us to tell engaging, fun, impactful stories in baseball. And it was always our goal to start with the Negro Leagues and eventually expand. And it's a completely different experience. The UI is different. The music is different. Derek Jeter is still alive, so we're able to actually talk to him. So it's a completely different experience, and it's in the same world. Jared Schiff and the team have created an amazing addition to storylines. It all lives under the same umbrella. It's all in the same world, but it feels completely different than the Negro League storylines.
That is so cool. And when we got to see it, I will say the first words out of my mouth was, that was badass, because the shift is so cool, right? Of like, I loved the Negro Leagues and I love the music, as you brought up, the presentation. Bob telling me these stories was so cool, but then you shift and it's like, early 90s, early 2000s, New York, the subway system. You can see Jeter on there. It's like, oh, this is rad as can be.
Yeah, and the team, Jared Schiff and all of the artists, so many people really worked their butt off on both of these projects. It really is a labor of love, and it takes a long time. You know, video game development is very difficult. AAA video game development is even more difficult. AAA yearly release video game development is kind of insane. And the amount of pressure that we're on to deliver a compelling product every year in about an 8-month cycle is very difficult. So when we shoot Bob early in March for a season, we only have about 8 or 9 months to make that into something. Same thing with Derek Jeter. We had Derek Jeter shoot 4 or 5 months ago, and that team has been burning the late night oil to make sure that it feels fun, it feels fresh, that you're learning something that you're playing. Because we've seen Derek do all of these things, but now you're getting to hear about how did this work in his head? What was he thinking about when these things happened? And then you go in game and you play it.
You're blowing my mind. I get hung up on the idea of, yes, the yearly releases and how fast that turnaround time is for you and the team of like, man, I'd be shaking going, well, what if we do next year? Like, give me some time. I mean, amazing that you and the team can turn around and get excited and make that happen. That is unreal stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely a labor of love. It's definitely difficult, and it's hard because I think every sports game developer hears, oh, it's just a roster update. I think everybody has that up on their wall. Let's make sure that this isn't a roster update. We need to make sure that we're putting enough content and changes, the right changes, into the game so that we feel that the end user has earned our respect and we've earned their hard-earned money, because video games aren't free. Like, most of them do cost a little bit of money. And so making sure that we're putting enough content out and changing the game up enough to where it's easy for that end user to make that purchase decision.
That's awesome, is right. I mean, I want to talk about, because you brought up being with Derek Jeter, you talk about being with Bob, you know, watching the storylines and getting to see the old school video, the sounds, the voices of some of these players. What's that like working with families and working with the MLB, working with Jeter himself? Is that a difficult task?
It's stressful as hell. It's very stressful. It's a little bit easier this year because, you know, it was received so well. But it's the same thing. Okay, y'all did something real special year one. Can you do it again? And so we were all looking at each other. And I remember when we shot season 2 with Bob, the first few minutes, Bob was a little different because he was like, you know, this is different. When you were here a year ago, we was just hope. We had hopes, dreams. It was just hopes and dreams. We didn't know if we were going to do anything. And so it was a very organic and a very pure process. But after you get a little bit of success, there's way more pressure, and that pressure impacts everyone because we're human beings and we're extremely flawed creatures, and it's real easy to overthink. And that's why having a mission statement for a video game and a project is so important. For storylines and for the Negro Leagues, it's the same mission statement as that museum: educate, enlighten, inspire. So every decision that we make has to be in service to those 3 things. Are we educating? Are we enlightening, and are we inspiring? All within a realm of a video game where you have a controller in your hands. So when the times got tough and when we were questioning some decisions that we were making, remembering what our mission was helps keep everybody grounded and it helps keep the train on the tracks.
You guys absolutely nail that mission statement. I smile every time I get to see this and play this. And yeah, that's what I brought up last year, right? It was the excitement of something new. What is this going to be? And I asked you, what was the player engagement? Did you notice that people jumped on this, right? You talk about Road to the Show, Play Now, Seasons, so many game modes and all of these sports titles. How do you make yours shine and get that? And it seems like it did, right? You've had some big moments where people took notice and it really paid off.
Yeah, some of the things that happened to the studio and everybody who worked on storylines was nothing that we had ever anticipated. We ended up in Congress to talk about more nuanced video game discussions about it not just being this participatory medium and not only it being a medium where you can tell impactful stories, but you can also educate. And there's this misnomer that kids don't like history. No, they do like history, but they do care the mode and the medium into which you bring them that history. And so it was an opportunity for us to have a more nuanced conversations of how powerful and how positive this art form of video games can be. And Bob texts me all the time about so many different kids who are coming to the museum because of storylines. And I've had fathers who have texted myself and Jared about, hey, I've been playing through this with my son. Like this, normally he doesn't want me in the room when he's playing video games. But he's like, Dad, you told me about this player. Like, stay in the room because I want you to play this with me. And that has been absolutely incredible. And at the end of the day, I think that probably was our ultimate goal, was to be able to draw a real tangible connection to these stories and to this amazing part of baseball history, which is often overlooked.
Oh, you guys do that. And it's so wild because I resonate with that. It's like, I want to show my dad this. I want to grab my best friend Roger, who's running the show, and say, sit down, we're going to have some fun for an hour and just play through this and just get lost in it. We talk about season 2. What if I miss season 1? What can players do to get caught up? Should they jump back into the game? Can they watch some of these vignettes and all the stories? Where can they find them?
100%. So all of the players from season 1 will be on this at launch. The storylines, however, we have an amazing partnership with Sony Pictures Entertainment, and you can watch all of the season 1 content, including the gameplay, on Sony Pictures Entertainment social media channels. And they just started releasing them last week, I believe.
I told you this before. I need you to win an ESPY, and I need this on ESPN. Like, I watch this and I go, man, this is 30 for 30 ESPN quality. This is some awesome sports docs that, like, I would love to watch on Netflix everywhere. So kudos to you and the team on that one.
Yeah, shout out to the team. Gavin, Jared, Sydney, Bree, Oka, Janet, Lisa. There's so many people, all of our artists. Tony Stone, we don't have women in MLB The Show. It's the first time we've had a woman in the game. So she needs to look right because her family has to review. They're going to review everything. And Tony's family is very particular of how she looks. So we had to add hair dynamics, which benefits the entire game. We can't have the first female be in our game and her hair doesn't move. So now we have real hair dynamics, but that benefits all players. So by adding this one thing that on the surface might not seem like a big deal, it is a big deal. And it's a big deal because what it brings and what representation means. Because most of us, I did not know who Tony Stone was 3 years ago. I had no idea who she was. And now we have this opportunity for a much younger and a new audience to learn who Tony Stone is, to learn about Buck Leonard, to hear why was Josh Gibson heralded as one of the best power hitters ever, who allegedly, more than likely, actually hit a baseball completely out of Yankee Stadium.
That's an amazing one. I cannot wait to learn more about that story because that was an awesome little pull right there. Now, Ramon, another fun one that I want to talk about is you had 8 players last year, 10 players now, plus Jeter, right? We're adding to the catalog. Who are we missing in your eyes? Who's that dream get that you still want to highlight?
Ooh, this is going to get into spoiler territory, so I have to choose my words very carefully. We are open and excited and exploring many possibilities of what we can continue to do with storylines. There are so many stories that we can tell about these amazing human beings who are also athletes who also play the game of baseball.
I can't wait to see where you go. I'm so excited. And I think the addition of Jeter is so exciting as well. Like, how do we build onto this for season 2 and then into season 3 and onward? I hope you guys get the green light every single year from me and the team here at Kinda Funny.
We do too. We certainly hope so too.
So before we go, the staggered release, let's talk about that. What will we see? What's kind of the cadence that you and the team want to hit? How can players get more and maybe come back, make sure they don't miss out on a certain
Yeah, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to create an opportunity to kind of give players a reason to come back because last year all 8 were there. People gobbled up the content super fast and like, we want more. And we're like, well, we ain't got nothing else. Like that's it. Like we spent all 8 months working on that. And so this year we upped it to 10. We're only releasing 4 at launch. And in a few weeks after launch, we'll release another 3 players, amazing individuals. And in a few weeks after that, we'll have another 3 players. And the same thing with Derek Jeter's storyline. His storyline is massive, but we're going to have a free content update for Derek Jeter as well to add onto his storyline as the season progresses. And who knows, you may see something else later on in the year.
I like that. Okay. Final one, of course, there's rewards to all of this. There is a reason to play and learn and get educated. There's also cards that will mix amongst all the game modes, right? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, Diamond Dynasty is a very popular game mode, and we don't shy away from that. But the Diamond Dynasty cards is in addition to. It was never in our thought process for storylines. However, we're We live in reality. People want that Josh Gibson card. We knew they were going to want the Josh Gibson card. We knew people were going to want Leroy Satchel Paige. But we knew if we just threw them into the game, it wouldn't feel right. How do we tell their story so that it makes sense? For instance, Martin DeHigo, who was in last year's storyline, only player enshrined in the 5 different countries' baseball Hall of Fames. I didn't know who he was 3 years ago. The vast majority of our audience had no idea who he was. Now they do. So now when you unlock his card in Diamond Dynasty, it resonates with you. You have some backstory. And so it'll be the same way again this year. For the new players, if you want that Josh Gibson card, at least the first one, you got to play through Storyline, and they'll all be in Diamond Dynasty.
Ramon, we're talking about Storyline Season 2. I'm excited to play. When can the players and I get our hands on it?
March 15th for early access and March 19th for the regular version of the game.
I said this before. This is a must-play, must-see, much-experience video game, and what you guys have created is really special to me, and I hope so many more. So congratulations to you and the team on that, and I cannot wait to see what's next.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm taking that thank you on behalf of the whole team because, I'm the only one who's here talking to you, but all the teams, they're back at home. They're still working on storylines, trying to get to the finish line, whether it's Jared or Bree or Sydney or Gavin. There are so many amazingly talented human beings who really put their blood, sweat, and tears into this game mode, and we hope y'all enjoyed as much as you did last year.
I can't wait to play. That's Ramon. I'm Mike. Let's kick it back to Greg and Bless. Thanks for tuning into this interview.
Man, Bless, what a great interview.
That was a
by
fantastic
SnowBike. You know what I mean?
Gosh.
He just loves getting out there, hitting them. You know what I mean?
That's how baseball works.
That's how baseball works.
Yeah, you go out, you hit them.
Blessing, tell me about the drop this week.
Yeah, the drop this week looks like this. You're getting Balatro, you're getting Penny's Big Breakaway, Slave Zero X, Inkulanati, and Pacific Drive. And I believe Pentiment is also out this week on PlayStation, if I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure that happened. It might be another. When does Hi-Fi Rush come? I think they announced that's
Hi-Fi
coming.
Rush is up for pre-order, and I think Pentiment was dropped.
Do we get Sea of Thieves yet? Can I go home and play Sea of Thieves on my PlayStation?
Here! Fun game.
Actually, I think Sea of Thieves might have been one.
All right, hold on. I'm opening the Xbox Wire. It'll tell me here.
Correct.
Xbox Wire. You can get Pentiment on February 22nd, so that is out today. Hi-Fi Rush is out today on February 22nd.
No way,
And
really?
then Sea of Thieves is out on, coming to PlayStation 5 on April 30th. It'll be available to wishlist for PlayStation 5 on February 22nd. So there you go.
Oh, that's awesome. The Hi-Fi Rush is out. I didn't realize that was out today.
Grounded, of course, comes to PlayStation 5 and 4 on April 16th.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Wait, no, it's not. Hi-Fi Rush is not today.
I'm so sorry. You're right. Well, it's that thing where they put so many dates in these things. March 19th.
There you go.
You can pre-purchase on PlayStation 5 today, February 22nd. So just Pentiment is out today, February 22nd. You can wishlist Hi-Fi Rush for its March release date. You can Grounded April 16th.
You can watch a Let's Play of Grounded right now. What are you trying to figure out over there?
I'm just putting all the dates in. They put them in there. It's just written in paragraph form.
We never talked about it on the show. Now that all those Xbox people aren't listening to the podcast, because it's a PlayStation podcast and we're toward the end. How great is it that they're publishing games on our platform? We got
fucking got
We
them.
got them.
Oh my god!
Fools.
You know what I mean?
Wasted their money on a box.
I knew Phil would
Come on,
bend the
man.
knee, and here
We
he
just
is.
had a 20-minute segment
Let's
about
go.
a PlayStation game that's also on.
It's
other
different when we do it.
Yeah,
It's different when
because
our team
PlayStation
does
was
it.
forced into it by MLB.
exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, no.
They're like, yo, you can't have this exclusive forever.
I think Marathon's coming to Xbox too. We don't talk about that.
We don't need to talk about that at all. What I do want to talk about, of course, is you talked about Balatro. We've talked about the other games. Penny's Big Breakaway. I haven't heard you talk about this. This is one of the ones you had been so excited for.
I think we just talked about it on KFGD. Like,
I thought since this is a new show, you could also just say again, like you previewed it.
Oh
like,
yeah, I
love
previewed.
it.
I've not played enough of it to like give like a full like kind of impressions. But like I played a little bit of it. I talked to Tim about it too because Tim's been playing a little bit of it. It's really charming. Like coming off of it, I was like, okay, this is a third person or a 3D platformer that like is coming from the devs of Sonic Mania. It has a lot of charm to it. The movement is like a lot of yo-yo based stuff, which I think is really clever and fun. So like you'll like throw your yo-yo into the air and then like swing off of it and kind of like have some cool locomotion stuff that way. For the little bit that I played of it, I wasn't blown away, but I wasn't like, oh, this is bad or anything, right? Like it kind of just felt like okay, this is a 3D platformer inspired by N64, PS1 era type stuff. Tim, bit further than me.
Yeah, he liked it
he
more.
played a little bit more, and he was like, "Dude, It's really great. Like he was like, get past like the first hour because it feels kind of weird to control, but once you get into it, he was saying that it feels like a great 3D platformer.
Similarly, Pacific Drive on this list. If you remember way back in the day, Janet and myself previewed Pacific Drive, and neither of us were hot on it based on that. I think it did us a disservice to be dropped that far in. I started it and played the first 30 minutes of it a couple nights ago when the Helldivers was broken for me because of friendless stuff. And I liked the opening enough that like I wasn't totally paying attention. But I liked it enough that I was like, shit, I need to restart this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's got a strong opening. It gets you going in this, whatever the fuck kind of like losty thing of like what's going on in this thing. So I'm going to get back to it eventually.
It's one that I really wanted to try out just because when I saw that first original trailer for it, it seemed like a really novel idea.
Yeah.
Like a driving survival game / roguelite.
Yeah.
And that's like, I assume it's narrative driven as well.
Yeah, there's a narrative to it. Yeah, there's a whole what the hell's going on
Yeah.
story to it. Yeah.
But I think it sounds like a really neat idea, but there's just been a deluge of video games.
Totally,
so
yeah.
It's been one I've not been able to get to yet.
Yeah, and it's one of those two where I think reviews have been kind of mid. Not bad. I think what it's got, I think on our Fantasy Critic, it's an 80, Barrett?
On Metacritic, it's 78.
78, yeah. So not bad, but like, when you got to go defend Super Earth.
Yeah.
What do you
gotta
do?
play poker?
When you got to play weird ass poker.
When you gotta kill devil because the
Kill chaos.
When
It's
you gotta play Queen's
Blood. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of PS I Love You XOXO. If you love what we do, use that kind of funny membership. Of course, you can pick it up on Patreon or YouTube. It would let you get PS I Love You XOXO ad-free. You'd get to watch live as we record it. And of course, you'd get my daily vlog series, Greg Way. And of course, you'd get the other podcast ad-free and then watch the other podcast record. You understand. However, no bucks tossed away, no big deal. YouTube.com/kindoffunnygames. Podcast services around the globe. Usually each and every Friday. We've been bogged down with the reviews lately, but usually I think we're getting back for a little while here to each and every Friday.
Are you sure about that?
No, I think we're coming up again another. It doesn't matter. PS I Love You XOXO is always there for you. Until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.